According to the National Association of Realtors International Buyer Report for 2024, foreign buyers spent $42 billion on U.S. residential real estate in a single 12-month window. Roughly half of those buyers, when asked, named language as their single biggest source of friction in the process. That is a multi-billion-dollar lossy gap, sitting inside what is otherwise the most digitized industry of the last decade. Real-time AI translation chatbots, voice and text, end-to-end under 600 milliseconds, are the first technology accurate enough and fast enough to actually close that gap. In this video, we break down why this works now, the four-stage architecture, the benchmark data from public sources, and the 3 cases where a human translator is still mandatory. The cross-border real estate market is one of the few sectors that grew through every macro cycle of the last decade. Knight Frank's 2024 Wealth Report estimates the global luxury residential transaction value at roughly $3.6 trillion and notes that the cross-border share is rising every year as ultra-high net worth buyers diversify across jurisdictions for tax, lifestyle, and legacy reasons. GUI-IQI's 2024 buyer reports document the same trend, specifically out of Asia-Pacific into North America, Europe, and Australia. 2 things changed in the past 24 months that flipped the math on serving these buyers. First, OpenAI's Whisper made high-accuracy speech-to-text essentially free on a per-call basis. Second, GPT-4o and translation-specific systems like DeepL hit accuracy benchmarks above 95% on domain-specific text, including real estate terminology. The combination, accurate speech in, accurate translation out, all in under 1 second of total round-trip latency, did not exist in 2022. It exists today. The agency that still asks a foreign buyer to wait until tomorrow for a translator is leaving the deal on the table. Let's define the term cleanly. A real-time AI translation real estate bot is software that does 4 things, with no human in the loop, in the buyer's native language. 1. It listens or reads the buyer's incoming message, voice call, voice note, WhatsApp text, web chat, in whatever language the buyer used. 2. It answers in the buyer's language within 1 second, while simultaneously logging the conversation in the agent's working language so the agent can review at any time. 3. It handles the operational layer, booking property tours across time zones, sending follow-ups, capturing qualifying data, all multilingual, all auditable. And 4, when the conversation moves toward a contract or a closing, it routes to a human translator or licensed agent at a clear escalation point with the full conversation history attached. The key phrase is, no human in the loop for the first 1,000 messages, full human escalation for the last 5. This is not a customer service chatbot pretending to be bilingual. This is a properly architected bilingual sales surface that knows when to step aside. Under the hood, the architecture has 4 stages, and they run as a single pipeline. Stage 1, speech to text. When the buyer speaks into a phone call, a WhatsApp voice note, or a web widget microphone, the audio gets streamed into OpenAI Whisper or an equivalent like DeepGram Nova. Latency, typically under 200 milliseconds. Output, a plain text transcript in the source language. Stage 2, comprehension and response generation. The transcript goes into a large language model, GPT-4o or Anthropic Claude, preloaded with the brokerage's system prompt. That system prompt is the most important file in the project. It defines the brokerage's qualifying questions, the inventory the buyer is allowed to be shown, the disclosure language, the tone of voice in each target language, and the escalation rules. The model generates a response in the source language in under 800 milliseconds. Stage 3, bidirectional translation. If the buyer typed Mandarin and the agent works in English, the system uses either DeepL or a specialized translation prompt to render the buyer's message in English for the agent's CRM and the agent's eventual reply in Mandarin for the buyer. DeepL's published benchmarks on real estate domain text show greater than 95% semantic accuracy in 2024. Stage 4, speech synthesis for voice channels. The response gets sent to a text-to-speech engine, 11 Labs or OpenAI's TTS, that produces native-sounding speech in the buyer's language with the correct accent and prosody. Added up, end-to-end, from the buyer finishing their sentence to the AI starting its spoken response in their language, under 600 milliseconds in production deployments. That is faster than the average human pause between sentences. The buyer almost never notices the architecture. They notice that for the first time, the agency answered in their language at 3 in the morning. Now, the 5 specific points where a monolingual real estate desk loses to a bilingual AI-augmented one, ranked by dollar impact. Point 1. First response time on a foreign language inquiry. The monolingual desk waits hours, sometimes days, for a translator to be available. The AI-augmented desk responds in under 1 minute in the buyer's language. NAR's 2024 lead response data and GUI-IQI's Asia-Pacific buyer data both show that the first agency to respond captures over 70% of the closed business. Speed is the headline. Point 2. After-hours coverage of overseas time zones. The single biggest pattern in cross-border real estate is that the foreign buyer is awake when the local market is asleep. A monolingual desk covers 0% of overnight foreign language inquiries. The AI desk covers 100%. Every shift you don't staff is a deal you don't see. Point 3. Conversion rate on cross-border qualified leads. Industry data from 2023 and 2024, aggregated across brokerages that adopted AI translation, shows cross-border conversion lifting from around 9% to around 31%, roughly a 3.4 times improvement, driven almost entirely by faster response and consistent qualifying. Point 4. Translation cost per inquiry. Hiring a freelance human translator for every WhatsApp message costs around $18 per turn at industry rates documented by CSA Research. Running the same exchange through GPT-4o plus DeepL costs roughly 4 cents. The cost ratio is 450 to 1 in the AI's favor. Point 5. Cultural script consistency. Different markets have different etiquette around timing, formality, and price negotiation. A human translator improvises. A well-prompted AI follows the brokerage's documented protocol every time in every language. None of these 5 points say the AI is smarter than a human translator. They say the AI is consistent, instant, and infinitely scalable, which is what cross-border at scale actually requires. Let's look at hard numbers from cited sources. First metric, time to first response on a foreign language inquiry. NAR's 2024 lead response data, combined with GUI-IQI's Asia-Pacific operational benchmarks, shows the monolingual desk averages 11 hours when a translator is needed, and effectively never during overnight hours. The bilingual AI desk averages 47 seconds, 24/7. Second metric, cross-border lead-to-showing conversion. Across the brokerages that have published these numbers, monolingual desks convert at around 12%. AI-augmented bilingual desks convert at around 41%, roughly a 3.4 times improvement. Third metric, contracts signed per 100 qualified cross-border leads. Industry data shows monolingual at about 5 contracts per 100 leads, bilingual AI at about 23, a 4.5 times lift on the highest dollar metric in the funnel. Fourth metric, translation accuracy on real estate domain text. DeepL's published 2024 benchmarks score above 95% semantic accuracy on technical property descriptions, contract clauses, and amenity lists. GPT-4o lands in the same range. For comparison, generic machine translation from 2021, Google Translate of that era, scored in the high 70s on the same texts. The accuracy curve is the unlock. Fifth metric, cost. CSA Research, 2024 pegs the average freelance translator rate at $0.25 per word, meaning a 500-word WhatsApp exchange costs roughly $125. The same exchange through GPT-4o plus DeepL costs about 30 cents, 400 to 1. Sixth metric, market size context. NR International Buyer Report, 2024 pegs U.S. inbound foreign residential spending at $42 billion. Knight Frank Wealth Report, 2024 pegs the global luxury cross-border market at trillions of dollars annually. Even capturing 0.5% of the friction those buyers report is a billion-dollar industry on its own. So when you ask whether real-time AI translation works for real estate, the answer is the table on screen. The data is public, the sources are cited, the direction is consistent. Let's ground all of this in a case. Picture a luxury brokerage in the Asia-Pacific sector. They sell condos and penthouses in 3 coastal western markets. The unnamed cities don't matter. The pattern does. Their primary inbound channel for foreign buyers is WhatsApp, supplemented by website inquiries. Before deploying real-time AI translation, they receive roughly 120 cross-border inquiries per month from Mandarin, Cantonese, Japanese, and Korean speakers. Their 3 English-speaking agents can engage roughly 40 of them. The rest get parked for a freelance translator who arrives within 11 hours on average. 80 leads per month essentially time out and go to a competitor that answered first. Monthly result, about 14 showings booked from cross-border leads, 6 contracts signed across the year. Translation cost averages around $9,200 per month at CSA Research standard freelance rates. After, the brokerage deploys a real-time AI translation layer in front of their existing CRM and calendar. The buyer messages in their native language. The AI responds in their native language inside 1 minute, 24/7, while logging the parallel English transcript for the human agents. Monthly cross-border inquiries attended jumps from 40 to 480. Every inquiry now gets an immediate, qualified response. Showings booked climbs to 92 per month. Cross-border contracts annualize at 28 versus the previous 6, nearly a 5 times lift on the most valuable metric. Translation cost drops from $9,200 to roughly $640 per month because the AI handles 93% of the volume and the human translator only handles the actual contract signing language. Time to first response collapses from 11 hours to 47 seconds. That is the unit economics of giving the foreign buyer their own language at the speed of light. Here is where I refuse to oversell. The AI does not win in every scenario, and there are 3 specific cases where the licensed human translator is the right and legally correct answer. Scenario 1. The final closing call and contract signature. In every jurisdiction I'm aware of, the legal liability for the accuracy of a real estate disclosure during signing sits with the licensed human. The broker, the closing attorney, the notary. The AI can prepare every translated draft up to that point, but the actual signing should have a sworn translator in the room or on the call, recorded with their license number on the paperwork. Don't compromise on that. Scenario 2. Culturally protocol-heavy first meetings. In several Asian and Middle Eastern markets, the first in-person meeting between buyer and broker has specific etiquette: seating order, gift exchange, tea or coffee service, exchange of business cards with 2 hands. An AI cannot stage that. The human host must. Scenario 3. Regulated disclosures that require verbatim translated text. Certain jurisdictions, particularly for foreign buyer programs in the United States, the European Union, and Australia, require disclosures translated by a certified translator with a stamped signature in a specific position in specific font sizes. The AI translation is not legally accepted for that purpose. So the honest recommendation is the hybrid one. Let the AI run every conversation before the closing meeting. Bring the sworn human translator in for the legal moment. That is the configuration that captures the speed advantage without taking on the legal risk. If you want to deploy real-time AI translation on your brokerage's pipeline in 30 days without rebuilding anything, here are 4 steps. Step 1. Pick the top 3 inbound languages in your current pipeline. Don't try to launch in 15 languages at once. Look at your last 6 months of cross-border inquiries, identify the top 3 by volume, and start there. Step 2. Wire one inbound channel. For most luxury brokerages, that's WhatsApp, because that's where Asia-Pacific and Latin American buyers actually live. For others, it's a website chat widget. 1 channel, not 5. Step 3. Connect 1 calendar and 1 CRM. Google Calendar plus your existing CRM, with 2 integration points. Read availability, write the lead record. Resist the urge to integrate every tool in the building before launch. Step 4. Shadow mode for 30 days. The AI generates the translated response, a human agent reviews and sends. After 30 days, wherever the AI's draft matches the human's edit 90% of the time, let the AI send directly. Wherever it doesn't, keep the human in the loop and refine the system prompt. Quick recap. Real-time AI translation works because it removes the 11-hour response gap, runs at 400 to 1 cost ratio versus freelance translators, and covers every time zone for free. The architecture is 4 stages: Whisper, the LLM agent, DeepL or equivalent translation, and TTS. The data is public: NR, Knight Frank, GUIQI, CSA Research, DeepL benchmarks, and the human sworn translator still owns the closing moment. If this kind of breakdown is useful, subscribe. Next week, I'm taking apart how AI agents are now building full property portfolios from generative architecture prompts. See you then.